Ah, meeting is now live on Facebook. Welcome to the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. I'm Nick from Retribe, and joining us today is Ben Norman, who's a high performance coach. Which today, Ben, that can mean an awful lot of different stuff. But can you? Well, first of all, welcome for joining me today. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Yeah, man. I'm really good. I had a really good long weekend doing a lot of touristy stuff. Like with family and friends visiting London. So I feel like a tour guide. Um, but it's been really enjoyable. So, but anyway, thank you for asking. How can you explain to the community, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, first and foremost, I'm a coach. I specialise in helping busy professionals reclaim their health, get their energy levels back, lose some weight, put some muscle on, generally feel better about themselves, and basically enable them to be able to keep up with their busy lives. Most people are really busy in their job. They push a little bit too hard. Their health and fitness tends to suffer a little bit. And I find that a lot of people wake up in their kind of 30s and 40s and realize that they've let things slip a little bit. They just don't have the energy that they used to have. People put this down a lot of the time to age, but it tends to come down more to the lifestyle that they've led. And just generally the nutrition slips. We're not really exercising, we're not really doing much from that point of view, and it all kind of has an effect. So I just specialize in helping, like I say, busy professionals find just clever strategies that they can fit it into their busy life, rather than having to kind of go and beast themselves every day, running for an hour or eating like a rabbit, because let's face it, no one wants to do that.
Not me.
No,
Unfortunately, and I've been doing the opposite of eating like a rabbit lately. It's been a bit of a problem. I put on some weight over the last few months, but we can talk about that in a minute. Ben, how did you get involved in this? Like, how do you, go from your life to whatever it was before you became a high performance coach?
I think because it was me. So I woke up. I'd just kind of gone through my mid-30s. I woke up, I was in a relationship that I didn't want to be in. I had my boy. I was running an agency doing close to 2 million a year. We had over 30 staff across 3 locations. I was kind of jet setting here, there, and everywhere, living this kind of busy, crazy life, not enough hours in the day. And it got so bad that I was just collapsing all the time. I took my family to New York one Christmas, and I collapsed on the plane. So I kind of came around, and my partner's there, my parents are there crying. I've got all the cabin crew around me. It was crazy. So it was a bit of a wake up, really. And I just thought my body was kind of screaming at me saying, you cannot carry on like this. Like, I would drink Fanta instead of water. For breakfast, I'd have a crunch corner with minstrels in it. It was like literally ridiculous when I look back. But I had no energy. I was tired all the time. I'd get ill sort of every 4 to 6 weeks because I was pushing really hard at work. I was busy. I just wasn't taking care of myself. And I kind of looked at my little boy one day. Sounds a bit kind of cliche, or I just thought, I'm not going to be around to see him grow up if I don't make a change. So I started trying to get myself fit again. So I did what most people think you do, which is go and beast yourself with a load of mind-numbing cardio, try and run, try and do a load of HIIT stuff that I hated. I was eating 2 salads a day, one with a bit of chicken, one with a bit of prawns. My protein was too low, my calories went too low. And I just literally went from one extreme to the other, which was being quite overweight and having a lot of visceral fat, to basically getting rid of not only a lot of the body fat, but a lot of the muscle that I had, which wasn't an awful lot at that point. So it kind of caused me to go down this rabbit hole of there has to be a better way. And I kind of came across a study from a professor who did something on the Twinkie diet, which you may have heard of, but he basically just showed that as long as you controlled your calories and got into a deficit, you could lose weight eating anything. So I kind of then took that a step further and devised my own kind of nutrition plans, my own workouts, realized I needed resistance training, not the cardio. And kind of through trial and error, I kind of started doing quite well and I felt amazing. People would notice it. People asked me what I was doing. And I was kind of burnt out at work. I decided to step back from my agency. And I then spent some time in the gym. I spent some time doing nutrition courses. I then crazily launched a fitness and nutrition business. So I created a range of supplements with what I'd learned, a whole host of other things. But basically, I just found a different, better way. And because so many people were asking me, well, how are you doing this? You can't eat all of this and not run and still look like that. It was crazy. I mean, at one point I was getting accused of being on steroids because I was being able to maintain a sort of lean body fat. I was quite muscular at the time. I was into my 40s at that point. And I just started helping people informally, and that then spawned into a fitness program and coaching. And it kind of just evolved from me finding, like I say, a better, easier way that fits in with busy lifestyles. So yeah, from that, I ended up going from owning and running a marketing agency to owning and running a fitness supplement business and clothing business, to then exiting that at the beginning of the year and coming full circle back into the coaching side of things, which is what I love. So, you know, yeah, that is kind of, in a convoluted nutshell, how I got to here.
It's a good story. And I want to kind of go back even further. I want to go pre you starting the marketing agency. So how young would you have been? What was your upbringing like? And what got you, what drove you into starting a marketing company that it was turning over 7 figures?
So I don't fail. So when I do fail, I fail a lot, but I don't give up. And I was working a job that I didn't like. I'd got myself into a ton of debt, just being a prat of a 20-year-old, running up a load of debt. I was running a team in building lasers, basically. And I just didn't like what I was doing. And, I'd applied for a few roles. No one was really hiring me. I didn't have the skills applicable to those roles. And I just started reading. So the internet was kind of around and I was dabbling in different things. And I thought, right, well, the only way of getting out, I've got to teach myself. I'll start my own business. But what do I start? So I started looking at, well, maybe I do event organising. I have no idea why I thought of that. But I thought, well, I'm going to need a website. So I learned how to build websites. And I thought, well, I now know how to build websites. Why don't I just build websites for people? And then what I realized was that people were getting really conned by, at the time, SEO, which is search engine optimization. It was in its infancy. And there was a lot of businesses out there that they would rank you #1 in Google for, keywords. So I helped some of the people that I built websites do this. And what we quickly realized, or I did, was what they were doing was ranking you for terms no one would ever search for. But people didn't really realize that. So I started then learning SEO and realized that I was actually quite good at it. So I created my own site, trying to prove that I could do SEO. And I then applied for some roles. And again, what experience do you have? I don't. So I wouldn't get hired. So I'm still doing the job that I don't like. And then suddenly people start ringing my mobile and they're like, oh, are you this SEO consultant? We've just found you in Google. I'm like, really? So I would then take days off from work to go and basically have meetings with potential clients. So I was then getting hired and then having to do the work in my spare time around work. I then started doing the SEO for that company that I was working for as well. I got an arrangement to do it in my spare time. And over about 3 months, I ended up ranking, I was the second highest SEO consultant in Google. So I was getting a lot of business coming through. I was earning 2x, 3 times what I was in that job. So I stepped back. I left that role to start out as an SEO consultant. And within 2 weeks of leaving that role, I got offered a book deal to write a book on SEO. So I thought, mum and dad would love that, right? If I wrote a book and had it in all the
Yeah,
bookshops. So
yeah.
I thought, I didn't tell them I was dyslexic. So well, probably not a good selling point, but I can write a book. It's got to be doable. So I did that. And basically I just started running out of time. So it was either turn business away or start hiring people. Had no clue how to hire people, but I did it anyway. I just sort of go online and work, okay, how to hire somebody, what do I need? Well, I need some contracts. I've got those, and just kind of muddled through really. And then the book got launched, and that then brought in even more people that were kind of talking to us. And yeah, we ended up winning. We were in the Deloitte Fast 50, which is the fastest growing tech companies in the UK, and we were also in in another one they do, which is like a global roundup. So yeah, that was really cool. And like I say, I was doing the whole marketing agency for probably 11, 12 years before I stepped back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really, I kind of set out to get a job, but ended up creating my own business because no one would hire me, which was kind of ironic. So yeah,
it's an awesome story, and I'm really in, like, as you're going along, from lasers to owning your own, to working and owning your own company, and then stepping back and doing all the stuff in fitness and nutrition, and the clothing line and the food, the food, and then now doing what you're doing now as a coach. And you're in your early 40s, I'm imagining, because you did say
so 41 now.
Yeah, 41. So, that's a few different careers, and I'm wondering, kind of, I'm very much not the same way, but yeah, I've had different careers, and I think back to when I was growing up and how the pressure that was put on someone from say 15 to 18 to really make a determination of what you want to go to university for, to study, so that you could become a profession that would carry you on through to your 65.
Yeah.
And the kind of insane notions around that, which is like, make a decision in your mid-teens of what you want to do for the rest of your life. When guys like you have proven that we can have different careers, different career paths, different jobs, and really kind of enjoy life on different levels, on different platforms. Were you put in any kind of like pressured situation growing up in your, you have got to go to university, Ben, you got to become a doctor or a lawyer?
At school, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? And people around me were, I want to be a doctor, and I want to be a fireman, and
I want to be a footballer.
You almost believe that you've missed something, or there's something a bit wrong with you if you don't know what you want to do. And I never knew what I wanted to do. So I just adopted the approach of, well, I'll do what I enjoy. And my best friend's dad owned a really successful business. And he always said to me, the minute you don't love what you do something else. And, my parents were always really supportive with what I did. I wasn't particularly academic. I didn't do that great in school. I got C grades and I got passes, but I wasn't a straight A student or anything like that. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. So, I would spend my summers working summer jobs. I'd work in the Easter holidays. So when all my friends were out, I'd work and save and buy cars or things like that. So I very much flip onto, if I enjoy it, I will just immerse myself in it. And they say, what is it, 10,000 hours to be classed as an expert in something? Well, if you're doing a 9 to 5 in something, that takes a long time to build up. But if you absolutely love what you do and you immerse yourself and you spend all day, every day doing it, it doesn't take as long to build up. And I think, coming back to your point, I think there are pressures at different stages. I've definitely had people say, for example, when I was at the laser company and I was going to leave, I remember walking in and vividly, this guy said to me, what do you mean you do SEO? Well, you build lasers. I was like, well, no, I do it. I know how to do it. He's like, why don't anyone hire you? There's people out there that actually know how to do this. And I just remember smiling and walking away and thinking how very sad that that's what you believe. Because always remember the quote, if you think, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it very much is. If you believe you can do it and you will put the effort in, you can get wherever you want in life. But the worst thing you can do is almost put that decision in other people's hands, because most people will tell you you can't, or they will say, don't do that, it's too risky, you won't make it, you'll fail. Because a lot of the time people, they're almost stuck looking at their own life, and they haven't pushed themselves out of their comfort zone. And for you to make it reinforces that they could have and that they didn't. And a lot of the time people put their own perceived limits or beliefs or values or whatever you want to call it onto you, because it's not that they don't want to see you succeed. I mean, I'm sure there are people like that, but I think it's just some people don't believe that they could, don't believe that you could. So it is very much, you kind of, I've always been very good at putting the blockers on. I listen to everybody. I take all of it in, as in listen to it, but I won't take all of it on board. Like if you say something to me, I'll run it through my common sense filter and go, that makes sense, that fits into my logic system and my belief system. I'll look at that further. Whereas if you tell me something that goes against everything that I believe in and think, I will go, okay, but I won't take that on, because it doesn't fit my beliefs. It might cause me to question something and go and research it further. But, you know, you get it all the time. I have debates, should we call it, with doctors. They will come onto my YouTube videos or something that I post and tell me that I'm wrong. People tell me that calories aren't equal. That's like saying a mile isn't equal. But the problem is, you can have a doctor or somebody who knows a lot about something, but they will chime in on something like nutrition and be totally incorrect. The problem is, people see that, look at the credibility of a doctor, and then believe it, and then it propagates out. And yeah, so I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent, but ultimately there is a lot of pressure, I think, at various different stages to, like you said, I've been through several different careers, and, you know, will I change again? I don't think so. I think I've kind of found it now, but if I fell out of love with what I did, then I absolutely don't think there's a reason. I think if you have the skill and knowledge to add value to other people's lives, then you should. For me, I now view it as it would be a crime for me to not help people, because I've seen the results. Like I've just worked one-on-one with a guy, and, you know, he's lost 18 kilograms, I think it is, in 3 months. That's a lot of weight that he needed and wanted to lose. He's still eating foods he likes. He's still going about his life, but that's irrelevant. This guy wouldn't look in a mirror, and he wouldn't have a picture taken of him with his family or anything. He will now have pictures taken again. For me, that's amazing, because like that guy's life now has totally changed. He can live a totally different life now. And that's what I love. And if I just stay pigeonholed and say, oh, well, I'll stick at marketing and I'll stick in this agency that I built, you've effectively then built your own prison. So I think you should always, if you don't like what you do, you should move and do something else.
I think that's an amazing piece of advice, and it's something that, you know, I wish we could all do, but I feel, and even in parts of my life, the thing that keeps me in the thing that I'm unhappy with is fear. You know, there's this fear of, you know, I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm gonna fail if I try, if I step outside of this comfort zone. And I think that's what has happened, is that, you know, I suppose the systems, the economic systems that we are in today teach us that 9 to 5 is safe, and it's what we need for our pensions, it's what we need for our security. But really, that idea is just serving the people who own the big corporations. So we're just kind of cogs in their machinery, right?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things. Like I always say, you know, the perceived risk and fear of moving, like the fear of staying put needs to be greater than the perceived fear of moving to where you want to go. Because as humans, we don't like change. We like our comfort zone, and we'll keep it safe. We don't want to risk anything. You know, it's a safety thing. It's built into us. But the trick is to really analyze where you're at and drive up the risks of staying where you are and the fear. You know, are you going to be happy on your deathbed in 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is, hopefully? Are you going to lay there and think, you know, yeah, I'm really glad I stayed put? Or are you going to think, God, what would my life have been like if I had have risked it, if I had have pushed for what I want? Because people think it's always a big risk, but a lot of the time, the only thing you're risking is your time. Because say you want to move to do something else, you've got to train to do that. So I'm a double certified nutritionist now. So I've done it twice with 2 different bodies. The time investment on that was probably 2.5 years. So for me to get to where I wanted, I needed those as well for my own, to know that I knew what I was doing. So the only thing really I would have risked is that time investment, because if you got to the end of it, you know, it's not like you're jumping from one thing and there's no way back. It's not, it isn't as big as that, but you do need to drive up the fear of staying put. So a lot of the time when I speak to people about fitness, nutrition, things like that, they're not happy. The biggest thing, they're not happy with their weight, how they look. Then you start digging deeper, and it's the confidence, it's how they feel. You know, they might feel that their partner is almost too good for them now. And that's driving some really bad sort of emotional issues. And it starts taking root and causing big problems. But you have to really dig, because if you ask people straight off, it's like, well, I really just want to lose a bit of weight. But that's very, very rarely when you dig what the problem is. But without exposing the whole thing and actually confronting someone with it, almost to say, look, this is the enormity of staying where you are. Now, for you to do 3 resistance training sessions a week, maybe not eat Krispy Kremes every single lunchtime, is it worth it now? And it suddenly becomes worth it, because actually we're now seeing the issues with staying put as the real issues. But that's one of the biggest reasons why people don't move, is just because it's not enough yet. But yet when you go to the doctor and they say, yeah, you're borderline type 2 diabetic, and if you don't make some changes in 3 months, you are type 2 diabetic, then it becomes a big enough problem to move. See?
That's the thing, is people tend to want to move when things become a problem. But you also mentioned this thing of perceived fear.
Yes.
Now, how do you work with people and go, this is a perceived fear? Is it real or is it not? To actually getting into a kind of the healthy realms of where fear can drive us to some kind of positive impact. Because I have found that sometimes my fears are not true at all. They're just all living up in this crazy space.
Most of them aren't. If you look at any time we're worried about something, we're worried about something happening, we start running all these scenarios through our head of what's going to happen, how bad it is. And how often does that ever happen? It never plays out that way, but we do. We catastrophize. We look at it and we worry. Like, one of the biggest things that people have with actually putting a line in the sand saying, right, I now need to sort out my health. I can't keep going on like this, is because they enjoy having that, you know, glass of wine in the evening when they get home from work. That the thought of going out and putting your trainer, getting home from work and going for an hour-long run terrifies me. I mean, it terrifies me. You know, you're not going to catch me putting on my trainers and going for a run because I don't like it. And if you don't like it, you don't want to do it, you'll never maintain it. So people build up all the things that they think it is and think, well, okay, the flip side is I've just got a little bit of a belly and I am nearly 40, and that's kind of acceptable, and that's how it is. And yeah, it's about being honest with ourselves. Because a lot of the time, let's be honest, we tell ourselves stories about what's going to happen or what can we, if we're in a certain place, we almost tell ourselves stories to make it okay, to make it acceptable, to legitimize it or normalize it rather than actually confronting ourselves with it. And also, like the biggest thing when people are busy is it's always, I'm busy. Oh, do you know what? I'll wait. In the summer holidays, I've got 2 weeks off. I'll spend some time doing that. We just put it off, put it off, put it off. That's why I say, like, it's not so much the perceived part of it. It's just staying put has got to be more uncomfortable than moving for you to move. It just has to be, or you've at least got to build it up to yourself that it is, because otherwise a lot of people won't. And the flip side of it is when people get the seesaw to go the right way and they go, right, now I'm going to make a change, now I'm going to move. One of the reasons I push so hard with my information that I put out is that I know that what tends to happen when you look at the studies, like 95% of people that go on diets rebound because they try and diet and they try and lose that weight and get into shape using strategies that are not going to be maintainable. There's no way they can last long term. So what someone will do, even if they need to lose, say, half a stone, I always use the analogy of somebody that is getting married. You know, you could put the craziest diet in front of them, the craziest, you've got to eat sawdust for like 6 months. But to fit into that dress, a woman will pretty much do whatever to have their wedding day exactly as they want. And you can totally understand that. But the reason, the issue that I have with it is that that's probably the last day, the day before their wedding, that they'll ever do that workout, they'll ever stick to that nutritional plan. They'll get married and then it's done, it's finished. And then what we get is we regain, and we don't just regain, we end up putting that weight on and then some. And that's the worst part. People often end up in a worse place than when they started because the strategies that they're using just are not long term. And we kind of adopt this almost all or nothing approach to getting where we want to go. Whereas actually just making a few smart choices, building in a little bit of resistance training a week, you know, it might not get you that absolutely colossal drop that everybody wants, but it will just get you that nice sloping down curve. And then you can just tailor off when you get to where you want. But the strategies you're already using, you just carry those on. It's not something that you need to kind of stop doing, or, you know, like diets are temporary. They will only ever last a certain amount of time and then they stop. And that's the biggest problem. So I find that combination is the worst, because people finally build up almost the willpower and drive to make a change. But then because they've almost got the wrong information and they do it the wrong way for them, it won't last. So you're almost doomed to fail from the start, because at some point you won't be able to maintain doing what you're doing. And that's the worst thing, because someone's really made an effort, they've really tried, but through no fault of their own. For example, I speak to people all the time that they're like, well, I've cut right down on my fats. Why? Because fats make you fat. Fats don't make you fat. We've just demonized fat in general. But you know, it all comes down to this almost like misinformation, which is I think the biggest problem.
Oh, definitely. You know, advertising and social media, it can be a great asset, but it can also cause a lot of fear. And I'm going, okay, let's go about your process. Let's say you take somebody on. What's your kind of process of evaluation, of seeing where they are in their life, to kind of say to them, I'm going to give you this lifestyle change rather than this diet or these exercises. So how do you assess somebody, and then what's the process of actually getting them into this program where they're going to be on this kind of nice slow slope to reaching their targets?
The first is to understand exactly what the problem is. A bit like a doctor. Now, I'm not a doctor, but if you go and see your doctor, the first thing they're going to do is ask you what the problem is, ask a load of questions around it, and really drill down to find the real root of that problem. Because sometimes it can be psychological, sometimes it can be misinformation. Like it's finding out exactly what it is and what your goal is. And then establishing things like, well, okay, what are the foods that you like to eat? Because the foods you like to eat are going to be totally different than the foods I like to eat, and then the foods my partner likes to eat. Do you know what I mean? And so on and so on and so on. Now, for every person, depending on, you know, whether you're looking to lose weight, you might be trying to gain weight, you might be just trying to gain muscle. You know, that all comes down to calories and working out our macros. But the real magic happens when you actually build those calories and macro needs out, but using foods that you like. Now, we can do that on a daily basis. So we can look at how much energy you need to hit your goal, and we can work that out 7 days a week, divided by 7. We've got the amount of calories that you need a day. Quite simple. We can then build out those calories with the amount of meals you like. You might be one of these people like me that don't like breakfast. I can't stand it, so I don't eat it, because you don't need it. Just a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
But you might be one of these people, like my partner, if she doesn't eat breakfast, someone's going to get hurt by lunchtime because she gets hangry. So, you know, that is a factor. Breakfast, no breakfast. You might also be someone that says, well, on a Saturday, I tend to go out and I eat more than I would on any of the other days. And this is what destroys my, you know, my weight loss for the week. Well, then suddenly we're not going to just divide our calories evenly by 7 days. What we're going to do is split them unequally so that we can give you more of your weekly calorie budget on a Saturday, because this way you're not sort of dreading or anxious of Saturdays anymore. You look forward to it because that's a day that you consume more calories, but you know you're still on plan. There's no guilt. There should be no guilt. No, I can't have that. I love a Snickers bar every now and then, but I can't have that because it's a sin. It isn't a sin. It's just calories. We build it in. And that's the trick, is building in not only your weekly energy targets around how you spend your typical week, but also the foods that you like to eat. So the guy that I was talking about earlier, he was always hungry because the foods he was trying to eat, he's doing, you know, stir fries, things like this. Well, that's not going to fill you up. Give him chicken pasta, happy as anything, full, not snacking, not increasing his calories in other ways, sticking to it, lost a hell of a lot of weight. We demonize certain foods and things like that. And if I take away the foods you like, or I take away that glass of wine you like a few times a week, you'll never stick to it. And the single question that I ask all of my clients is that if I gave you this plan that we've built out, could you see yourself eating this in 6 months, 12 months? Because if you can't say yes, if you couldn't stick to that kind of routine, should we say, it's not the routine for you. You know, because there might be moderation in certain places if you need to lose weight and your calories are going crazy. But what you tend to find with that a lot of the time is the meals aren't the problem. It's all the snacks in between. Or it's that I've eaten my dinner, but I'm still hungry. So now I need to eat something else. But it's by switching it out, including the foods that you like. And like I say, I always come back to resistance training, because resistance training, in my opinion, is key. You still burn calories, resistance training. You still elevate your heart rate when resistance training. You can fit it in anytime you want. So we can do it at the gym. We can do it at home if we've got weights or a bench at home. You know, you can do it with resistance bands. So I've got people that will use their resistance bands while they're on Zoom calls. You know, so many people are on Zoom calls multiple times a day, but they're in listen only mode because they need to understand the information, but they don't need to be active in that call, in that Zoom call. So people are able to do a workout while doing their work. So there is no extra time needed. Got other people that come home and they like to put Netflix on for an hour and chill out. They'll do their resistance training at the same time. So they're still watching Netflix. They're just getting their resistance training in as well. But the beauty with resistance training is it puts the muscles under tension. It breaks them down. So then the nutrition, making sure we're getting enough protein and things, we're then rebuilding the muscle. And this is what gives people the definition that they want. Also, to maintain muscles, we use more calories. So we get that little bit of bump. We can consume more calories a day. There's a whole host of other benefits, but most people believe that, especially weight loss, calories as low as possible, salads, cut out everything I like, and we're going to run every day, or we're going to do HIIT and make ourselves feel sick. And it's just not needed. You don't need to do it that way. Like some people say, but I like running. Great, then run. That's fine. But one of the problems that I find with running a lot is if somebody is quite overweight, they're a lot heavier than they should be. And if you start running, especially on roads, that's a hell of a lot of bashing and pressure that you're putting through the joints and things like that, which isn't very good. You know, so yes, you can run on grass, you can run on a running machine and things like that. You can do things like that. That's fine. But the other issue you get, especially if you've got someone on quite low calories because you're weight loss, running and high intensity cardio is then going to drive hunger levels up a lot of the time. Plus, we also have that reward feature built in that I've just done a run, I'll have something to eat. You know, I can treat myself a little bit. The problem is a 10-minute run, and I did a thing on this the other day, a 10-minute run, and that's a run, not a fast walk or a bit of a, you know, shuffle, that's a run. You know, you're burning off like 1 chocolate digestive every 10 minutes. So if you do a half-hour run, that's like 3 chocolate digestives. Well, for me, I'd rather just not eat 3 chocolate digestives. You know, and it's the thing that people need to understand with weight loss is it's just a seesaw, you know, energy in, energy out. And if the amount of calories you consume is less than the amount you're burning, you'll lose weight because our bodies need to pull in from our body's fat stores for the rest of the energy. You know, and for weight loss, if you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. Simple as that.
I know there's obviously, like you said, there's a lot of diets out there. Everyone talks about, you know, ketosis and paleo and all these different diets. And I heard this dietitian talk the other day about metabolic dexterity. And that was the thing that I was like, wow, do you know what? Like every individual is different. And that's why we need someone like you to be able to come up with the plan of eating what is right for our body. How long does it normally take for you to figure out a body type and what kind of food best suits that body type, I suppose?
Honestly, there's a lot of fancy terms and there's a lot of people that build this up to be something that it isn't and overcomplicate it. Every diet that you've mentioned, it only works in one way and one way only, and that is a calorie deficit.
Calorie deficit.
Keto is not magic. If somebody could show me a study that showed me that if you followed a ketogenic diet, you can consume more calories than your body needs a day, and yet you still lose weight, I'll be interested. But there isn't, because it isn't. So for me, there's different talks on body types and things like that. Look, some people naturally like to have higher carbs, higher fats. Whichever way, all of the studies that I've seen, regardless of where your fats and your carbohydrates go, as long as you protect your protein target, because you want that for your lean muscle, as long as you're protecting that, your carbs and your fats, you can have higher or lower. The only thing that I always say to people is you do not want to take your fats too low because you mess up your hormone production and things like that. Your testosterone, you don't want to do that. So I get myself into trouble sometimes because I go a little bit too much with it. You know, there's people out there that says, oh, you've just broken your metabolism. No, you haven't. You haven't broken your metabolism. If you want to lose weight, all you need to do is consume fewer calories than your body burns. If you do that, you'll lose weight. If you're doing that and you're not losing weight, you aren't in a calorie deficit. You're either not tracking correctly or you've not worked out your calories correctly. It is as simple as that. And, you know, I do get the fear. Like one of my clients had a lot of fear when I started talking about, you're going to be eating chicken pasta for this meal. Oh, that's too many carbs. I'm like, forget the carbs. So keto, the reason people love it so much and why it gets such applause is that if I suddenly put you on a keto diet, you will lose weight really quickly. The problem is a lot of the weight that you're going to lose is water weight. So when we store a gram of carbohydrates, we store with it 2 to 3 grams of water. So, you know, our glycogen stores, things like that. Now, the minute I start cutting carbohydrates out of your diet, not only are you not you're going to deplete your your glycogen stores, but you're also going to ditch the water that was stored with that carbohydrate. So on a scale, your weight's going to drop quite significantly. Round of applause. Problem is we get with that, and I see this on forums and in chats all the time, is that people then get themselves in a real mess because they're like, oh my God, I had some carbs last night and my weight's gone through the roof and now I've blown it all. And all it is that your body's gone, yes, carbs, we'll have that. They store it, glycogen stores, water, and suddenly your weight spikes right back up. So it's a bit of a false win. It's not, you're not losing body fat, or all the weight you're losing is not all body fat. A lot of it is water weight. But I don't believe, unless you're somebody that is carb intolerant, certain forms of epilepsy can benefit from a ketogenic diet. It's been shown in certain cases to reduce fit rates. But what I say to most people, if you like carbs, I wouldn't just try and ditch all your carbs, because again, if you're somebody who loves like pasta and pizza and things like that, and I suddenly make you go on a keto diet, how long until you break or you have to do it, or you're going to live miserably for the rest of your life? But don't get me wrong, some people love keto and it suits them and they don't like carbohydrates that much and they feel good on it, and that's great. But ultimately, it all comes down to what is the right mix for you. What are the foods you like? And ultimately, when it comes to losing weight and then maintaining a certain weight, as long as our calories are in the right place, you're going to be all good. The problem is it becomes overcomplicated, and we end up with companies that instead of basing it all around that, we kind of say, well, that food's a sin and this food isn't. And in my opinion, I don't feel we should demonize any foods. I mean, we're not stupid. We know that eating an apple is going to be a lot more beneficial for us than eating a Krispy Kreme from a nutrient point of view. But sometimes you really just want a Krispy Kreme, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you shouldn't feel bad about that, because once in a while, absolutely fine. But like I say, if you're having Krispy Kremes every break time, that's going to be a bit of a problem. You know, it's like having a few glasses of wine versus drinking 5 bottles of wine a night.
Big deal.
We're also not stupid. We do know that. The problem that I have with the industry as a whole is like I say, the misinformation. The people that they automatically default to the low fat option of everything because they believe that what they're doing is good. But yet, on the other hand, the same industry says avocados really good for you. Well, avocados are fats. They're good fats, quite high in calories. Of course, they're good for you. They're good fats. But isn't it funny that we kind of put this on a pedestal, this avocado, and then demonize everything else for having fat in it? It's bemusing at most.
There's a lot of mixed messages, and like you say, really it's all about selling stuff to people. And I think that's why it's so important for someone to engage with someone like yourself, because you know, diet is like 70 to 80% of the, you know, weight loss process. But quickly, you know, like you talked about resistance training, how much resistance training should somebody be doing, and do we need to be getting that burn on where we have the aches in the morning? Is that a good sign?
Okay, so I always say 3 days a week. I only train 3 days a week. I only ever have. I've gone to insane levels of body fat just to show that I can at 40. I don't like to maintain that because I don't think it's particularly healthy. But 3 days a week is ample. But 3 days for just under an hour, like I say, you can do it from your office with some resistance bands. You can get up in the morning and listen to your audiobook and do it. You can build it into your life wherever without having to add in any extra time. You don't have to go to the gym. I go to the gym because I love to go to the gym, but still I only do it 3 days a week because who has time to do it more than that? So I always champion that because I think it keeps your body in a good, strong state. Coming back to the burn, no, you don't necessarily need to have that burn. What you need to do is be aiming for, I always say that aim for progressive overload, which means that we're continuing to put our muscles under increased strain. So if you lift a certain weight for a certain number of reps and you always do that, your body, you just sort of plateaus. You're not really going to build anything more because you're not putting any increased demand on your muscles. Now, a lot of people, especially women, the idea of resistance training a lot, they kind of go, oh, I don't really want to look muscly. I'll look muscly. Well, it takes quite a lot to do that. But the benefits with maintaining lean muscle is that lean muscle takes more calories to maintain. If we're consuming more calories from things like protein, it has a higher thermic effect. So protein, the body actually utilizes more calories to break down and utilize protein than any of the other macros. So there's a few different benefits with it, but I find all in all, it's easier to fit in a resistance training session within a busy schedule than it would be to try and go out for a run. And like I say, if you like running, that's fine. But if you are quite overweight, you do have to factor in the amount of pressure and pounding you're giving all of your joints and your knees and things like that. So I think it's just being mindful and kind of taking care of ourselves. But that's not to say, like I say, you can lose weight without resistance training and without cardio. It all becomes calories in, calories out. And if you keep your calories in lower than your calories out, you will lose weight regardless what you do. But for me, the best combination, resistance training 3 days a week and build your nutrition out, utilizing foods that you like. And there's, you can factor this and build this out yourself. What I find is that a lot of the time with coaching, what people need is the motivation, the accountability, the checking in. It's knowing that it's almost just knowing that you're accountable to somebody. And that helps a lot of the time to keep people focused rather than drifting.
I love it. That's a great way to end is the accountability. And I think that that's the thing that whenever something good in my life has happened, it's because I've been accountable to people. And then there's people like you available with it. I love your philosophy. I would love to kind of stay in touch with you and learn more about it. And how can people get in touch with you, Ben?
So YouTube channel, my website, ifnutrition.co.uk. There's links to everything off of that. LinkedIn, I'm quite active on LinkedIn because, like I say, I help busy professionals, so it's the best network for me to be on. And I offer things like my Facebook group, which has got loads of free training in and things like that. I'm always available on my chat on there. So, I'd rather help point people in the right direction. I spend a lot of time giving away free advice, which some people say is crazy, but I don't believe it is, because I think the more you can help people, it's, if I can just help a few people avoid this whole trap of all or nothing and actually just building strategies around what they like, I know that it actually lasts a lot longer.
I think your idea around helping others is the foundation of my life now. And I think that if more people kind of grasp to, we're in this world to help each other, not to take away from each other.
Exactly.
Amazing things happen. You're a great man, Ben. I'm looking forward to our friendship and getting to know each other better. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to, through the Facebook page, you can put all the links in the chat and feel free to post this anywhere you need to as well. So thanks a lot, brother. I really appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Thanks everybody at the community. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join me on Thursday at 11 a.m. for another workshop around tough and tender. Thanks everybody. See you later. Bye.